Haribol. So today we have a very auspicious lineup. We are first going to Dhira-samira with Prajapati Maharaj. Then we are going to Gopesvara Mahadeva with, I believe, Shriman Prakashama Prabhu. But if I'm wrong, I expect Chidandi Maharaj to jump on and correct me. Then we're going to Vamsi-vata with Prajapati Maharaj, and then we're returning to Sri Govindadev temple with Prajapati Chidandi Maharaj. Again, and there is a small possibility, it's going to be discussed in the background, that we might have some kind of encore where we glorify Srila Narottam Das Thakur at the end, which will be meaning that we kind of run over, but then anyone who has to go has to go. That's absolutely fine, no problem. So before we do all of that, we're going to have Chidandi Maharaj share the root of today. But before we do all of that, we're very fortunate that Janardhan Prabhu from Seattle, who I think is online at around 2 a.m., it's 2 a.m. where he is now, has made a beautiful video. Just like yesterday, he's made another video, and it's even longer than yesterday, so there's even more nectar. So I'm going to find that video and share it for all of you. Just give me a second. It's in my downloads. Yes. Okay. Very cool.
When Ras was going on here, this is in Vamsi-vata area all day. We have seen Vamsi-vata here, nearer place. यहाँ पर हम लोगों ने Vamsi-vata को देखा बहुत निकट, उसके एरिया कोटि-कोटि गोपी लोग. So you can imagine how big place it was, where lakhs and lakhs of gopis were dancing with Krishna. Chandra became silent. He was not moving at that time. Jaya Radhe
Vamsi-vata ki jai. Baraja bipine Yamuna kule mancha manoharam savita pule. Baraja bipine Yamuna kule mancha manoharam savita pule. Baraja bipine Yamuna kule mancha manoharam savita pule. Baraja bipine Yamuna
Here you are, in this corner you are seeing, this is called Ishan Court. North and east. No? So this is Ishan Court. Ishan is Shankar. His other name is Ishan. So he is here situated. Here you are seeing Gopesvara Mahadeva. You should do pranam here to Gopesvara Mahadeva, Shankar, but took the face form of Gopi. We will explain their city. Go on. You should do pranam to all.
Very well. Thank you for another beautiful video. I'm just double checking that no one's unmuted. Sorry, they are short. No, they're perfect length. Thank you so much, Janardhan Prabhu. They're really beautiful, really inspired. Okay, so we're now going to hand over to Nandi Maharaj to give us the route. I'm just looking for the route map. Oh, it's not been sent to me over email. I've got to get it on the WhatsApp that you sent me, Maharaj. Sorry. But if you want to begin, Maharaj, with your invocation while I find it.
I was just going to wait until I go over the map, and then I was going to start the invocation when we get to Dhira-samira.
Okay, sure. Okay, it is coming in 1 second. Yes, I have it now. Share. Okay, can you see?
Yes, I can see. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you, Tarunji. So I'll just begin explaining this map, Tarun, okay? So, all glories to Srila Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada and our Rupanuga Guru Vargya. So today I'm just going to briefly explain our route before I begin my katha at Dhira-samira. So you can see the circle. Yesterday we went to Nidhuvan and Radharaman, Gokulananda, and Gopinath, where the cursor is now. And today we're going to go a little further, and we're going to come into sort of like a back street area. And this whole area is actually Vamsi-vata. So first of all, we're going to go to Dhira-samira, which is probably number 13 or 12. Not sure which one. And then we're going to go to Gopesvara Mahadeva, which will be number 14, I think, Tarunji.
What's the route? Which roads are we walking along? Like down
Yes.
and along?
No, you just go around the back. Around the, yeah. Okay. Yes, and well, okay, that's a log route, but that's okay. We might short circuit it. But then after Dhira-samira, we're going to go to Gopesvara Mahadeva, and then we're going to come to Vamsi-vata. So it's all principally in this region, just so you can see in relationship to Yamuna Devi and on which side of the river we are. There's Keshigat, you can see that. And our temple is just further behind Nidhuvan. So if you see approximately, it's very close. It's a very close journey. And then when we've completed that, we're going to come down a bit to the Govinda Mandir. I'm not sure which number that is, but it's basically a little bit of a walk, probably a half a mile or something. But it's in that direction where you're going, Tarun, but I can't see it on the map here, so we won't explain it. But yes, it's down that road. Very good, Tarun. Yeah, it's down there, the Radha Govinda Mandir. And we'll go there right at the very end. Okay, so now we're going to return to Dhira-samira. And I'll say some words about Dhira-samira. Om Agnat Mirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jina Tasmaya Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anapetyam Apetya Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Juhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Taravopendustam Sarvavutam Munim Anatoshmi. Bhaktya Vihina Aparara Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanara Vindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Paradram Tatoma Manasti Katirna Chapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotara Rashishi Mad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotara Rashishi Mad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada. And all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to you all today on this most auspicious day of our parikrama. Yes, on this day of our parikrama, we've come to the area of Vamsi-vata. Vamsi-vata is the first Ras Leela Stali, the first place where the Ras Leela is performed. And the atmosphere of that place reaches many miles. So Dhira-samira is very close, this particular location. And Dhira means very slow, and Samira means breeze. So we've come to this Dhira-samira pastime place. This place was actually established by, oops, what happened? Oh, we got the yoga pit just suddenly come on. Interesting. This is in Anjali. Tarunji, you don't need to have that on the screen.
Oh no, you're seeing someone else spoke, and it's their image. That's why.
That was very, very beautiful, because that was the yoga pit here, Mahaprabhu's appearance place in Navadvip. So I feel very much at home now. So okay, back on my home ground. But in this place where we are now, this Dhira-samira, there are so many thousands of pastimes just cascading here beautifully. There's a very beautiful Leela where Krishna he's searching for Sri Radhika, and he can't find her. And he's come to this very place of Dhira-samira. He's left the Ras Leela in Vamsi-vata, and he's come here, and he's searching for Sri Radhika. And one Saki suddenly appears and said, oh, if you're searching for Sri Radhika, then you need to chant the Radhika mantra. If you don't chant the Radhika mantra, how can you expect Sri Radhika to be found? So Krishna is very eager, and he asks the Saki, oh yes, you give me this mantra quickly. So the Saki says, well, first you go and bathe in the Yamuna, and then I'll initiate you into this mantra. So Krishna does that, comes back, and then the Saki initiates him into the mantra, which I can explain later. And then Krishna begins to chant that mantra, and nothing happens. Sri Radhika doesn't appear. And then the Saki says, come on, you're not focusing sufficiently. Your meditation is not deep enough. Just be one focused and listen to the sound vibration of the mantra. So Krishna tries again. And again, Sri Radhika doesn't appear. And then the Saki says, you're just not, you're too distracted. You have to just focus more, make more energy. So Krishna tries again for the third time. And still, he's not able to bring Radhika into his presence. And finally, the Saki becomes in a mood of frustration. Oh, you can't chant this mantra. You're just not qualified to chant this mantra. You just chant Hare Krishna Sankirtan mantra. You just chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then so Krishna begins that Sankirtan of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and immediately Radhika appears. So this pastime actually took place right here. So this is demonstrating the power of the Mahamantra over the individual Sri Radha Gayatri mantra, which is extremely beautiful mantra that I can share with you later if anyone is interested in that. But this particular pastime place, as I said initially, is totally soaked in the most confidential, esoteric sweetness and atmosphere overflowing from Vamsi-vata Rasastali. So the person who manifested this particular pastime place is Gauridas Pandit. He came here 500 years ago, and he found great nourishment in his meditation and bhajan here, to such a degree where he established the very beautiful deity of Sham Rai. We see the beautiful deity on the altar here. This is Sham Rai, and this was established by Gauridas Pandit. So Gauridas Pandit, as we know, is a Nitya Siddha Parikar. He's one of the Dwadasa Gopals of Nityananda Prabhu, and his name is Subal. He's a Priyanam Saka of Krishna, as well as one of the 12 principal Gopals of Nityananda. So Gauridas Pandit came here 500 years ago and established this pastime place. And Gauridas Pandit, his brother, of course, is Suryadas Sarakela, who is the father-in-law of Nityananda Prabhu. Sarakela had two daughters, Vasudha and Janava. So they both married Nityananda Prabhu. So Gauridas is very much connected integrally with Nityananda Prabhu. So, so Gauridas has come from Ambika Kalna at the end of his life from Navadvip Dham. His place of residence that we can visit here in Navadvip is in Ambika Kalna. So at the end of his life, he comes here to Dhira-samira and performs his bhajan here, and his samadhi is also here. So we pay homage to Gauridas Pandit and remember his great, remarkable qualities. And we remember his disciple also, called Hridaya Chaitanya, who is the guru of Shyamananda Prabhu. So this is a whole line of principal personalities. So by coming to these holy places, just like yesterday when we were remembering Lokanath Goswami and Narottam Das and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur of Gokulananda and Gopal Bhatta at Radharaman and Madhu Pandit at Gopinath Mandir. So today we're remembering Gauridas Pandit here at Dhira-samira. So this is very helpful for our focus and our attention to be meditating on these personalities who perform such significant service to Sachinandan Gaurahari. Also, Bakreshwar Pandit, who is Aniruddha in the Chatuvyuha, who is another Nitya Siddha Parikar of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He performed his bhajan here. And his disciple is called Gopal Guru, who we hear about in the Jaivadama. And Gopal Guru's disciple is Dayana Chandra. So there's a very interesting story that when Gopal Guru left this world in Puridam, that his apricot body manifested in this place of Dhira-samira. And Dayana Chandra, while he was in Puri, he was lamenting very much that his Guru Maharaj had departed this world. And he was having some difficulties with the government. And he was praying fervently for the mercy of his Gurudev. And then some people came from Dhira-samira and they told him, oh, don't you know your Guru is in Dhira-samira? So Dayana Chandra was astonished and he went straight to that place of Dhira-samira where we are now. And he met with his Guru. And they had a wonderful exchange. And then the Gopal Guru instructed him, you go back to Puri and you make a murti of my form. And he instructed him how to do that. And then all your difficulties will actually go. So these three personalities, Gauridas Pandit, Bakreshwar Pandit. Bakreshwar Pandit was that incredible dancer. He actually requested Mahaprabhu for 10,000 Gandharvas to sing while he danced. It's recorded in the Chaitanya Bhagavat how he danced for 72 hours continuously. One time, he was a tremendously potent personality. He had thousands of disciples. So he came here also to Dhira-samira. So this place is very much attractive to these personalities. And we should understand from our remembering of these personalities from Gaura Lila is that we should make no gap between Vrindavan and Gaura-mandal. Gaura-mandal is Gupta Vrindavan. So Gaura-mandal and Vrindavan are non-different, just as we should have no gap between Radha Krishna and Sachinandan Gaurahari. They are one. So this appreciation can come in our hearts at this place of Dhira-samira because it's so much influenced by particularly Gauridas Pandit, who established this incredible place. When we come into this courtyard, it's always exceptionally clean. Every time we've ever visited here, it always seems very beautiful and the atmosphere is very fresh because the Yamuna is close by, but it's fresh because of the abundant Rasik confidential pastimes that are just overflowing from Vamsi-vata, which is very close by. So just to appreciate that there's no space between Vrindavan and Gaura-mandal by hearing about these personalities who manifest these remarkable pastime places for us to become nourished in. So this is the speciality of Dhira-samira. Gauridas Pandit, it's described that his body and soul were devoted fully to Nityananda Prabhu, to such a degree where one time Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, they visited his place in Ambika Kalna. And they told him that Mahaprabhu said, now I'm going to go and take up my residence in Puri. And Gauridas Pandit was heartbroken and wouldn't let them go. So Mahaprabhu indicated a neem tree and said, you can carve some deities of myself and Nityananda from that particular neem tree. So in a very short space of time, these two deities were manifested with the help of Nityananda Prabhu. It's described he helped to manifest these two deity forms of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda. When these two deity forms were manifested, after a few days, Mahaprabhu and Nityananda said, well, now we are taking our leave. But Gauridas wouldn't let them leave. He was insistent that and his tears were so piteous that finally Mahaprabhu said, all right, we'll stay, but the deities will leave. And then the deities got up and started to go, and Mahaprabhu and Nityananda took the form of the deities. And then Gauridas Pandit was astonished. So then he ran after Nityananda and Mahaprabhu and said, no, you must stay. And this went on for a little while. And finally, Gauridas Pandit had to make a decision which set of Gaurnitai were going to, of course, they're both non-different entirely. But the point of this pastime is to demonstrate their absolute non-difference to such a degree where Gauridas Pandit, when he would offer them anything, they would always take it. Always the plate coming out of the altar would be totally empty. Gauridas Pandit was a brilliant cook. And Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, they relished his cooking to such a degree where they would empty the plate every time it went on the altar. So Gauridas Pandit is an extremely potent personality. And in his meditation, he considered that this place of Dhira-samira was the place where he wanted to depart this world. And he came here, and for some time, some years, not a long time, but for the last years of his life, he resided here and manifested the beautiful deity and resided here performing bhajan. So this is the pastimes that we remember. It's also described that when Janava Mata, she came here, she stood at the samadhi of Gauridas Pandit, and she wept copious amounts of tears because Janava Mata, she's the consort, of course, of Nityananda Prabhu, but the nishta that Gauridas has for Nityananda Prabhu is unsurpassed. He's one of the 12 Gopals. There's 12. There's first of all Abhiram Das Thakur, and then Sundaranandan Thakur, then Kamala Pipalaya, then Gauridas is number 4. Then there's Parameshwari, then there's Dhanajaya Pandit, then there's Mahesh Pandit, then there's Purushottam Pandit, and then there's Kala Krishna Das, and then there's Purushottam Naga, and then there's Udaran Thakur, and then there's Kolavecha Sridhar. So these are the 12 Gopal cowherd boys of Nityananda Prabhu personally. So Gauridas is the 4th in that line, a greatly remarkable personality. So today we're remembering him, and we're remembering the sweetest pastimes here in Dhira-samira. So when we go to Vamsi-vata very soon with our dear beloved Pujapad Nemi Maharaj, he will unwrap so many of the pastimes there in Vamsi-vata, which we are tasting here from the breezes. Dhira-samira. The breeze became completely stunned in connection with the atmosphere of this place. The breeze itself stopped practically. So there's Dhira-samira, very, very potent place indeed, and very beautiful place. The atmosphere is so sweet and sublime for the consciousness. It's a quieter place than the temples we were in yesterday. It's a little more off the track, and it's more secluded. There's definitely an unbelievable charm about Dhira-samira. So Gauridas Pandit ki jai, Sham Rai ki jai, Vakreshwara Pandit ki jai, Gopal Guru ki jai, Dhira-samira ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Hare Krishna, Vanshakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namah.
Maharaj, just a very, very quick question. don't know how to pronounce how to go. You said somewhere near the beginning, you said there was an atmosphere of Vamsi-vata, something Leela. What was the Leela?
All the confidential and the Rasik Leelas that are performed at Vamsi-vata, they overflow the whole area. Like in that video we saw of Gurudev, he was saying all around here is this confidential atmosphere of the Ras Leela. So Vamsi-vata is the initial place of the Ras Leela. So this atmosphere flows out. It's not directly the Vamsi-vata, but it's on the side, so to speak. Exceptional place, beautiful place. I've still got another 3 minutes. I did that pretty well, I thought. Anyway, rushed through it. I thought I wasn't going to have enough time, but it's good.
Very well.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. It was there was a lot of nectar in there. I really like hearing about Gauridas Pandit. I was able to visit Gauridas Mandir in Ambika Kona.
Wow.
Around the same time as I visited you. Yeah, it was very, very special, very deep place. So yeah, it's really nice to hear about him. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question just to clarify. So Gauridas Pandit Samadhi is at Dhira-samira, right?
Yes. But his Sripat, his birthplace, is in Ambika Kalna.
Okay.
And there you have the darshan of the Mahaprabhu's Bhagavad Gita and the awe that Mahaprabhu used to come across the Ganga at that time. So it's a very special place.
Yeah. It's, there's something very like mystical about that place. I just remember.
I was mentioning these things simultaneously to bring us to the awareness of the non-difference between Gaur Mandal and Vrindavan. You know, we are talking so much about Mahaprabhu as well as the confidential topics. Without accepting the speciality of Mahaprabhu, we cannot even begin to enter these special topics. And without having the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, Heno Nitya Binay Bhai, Radha Krishna Paitina, we can't enter. So
that's a beautiful, very important, poignant consideration. Thank you, Maharaj. I'm gonna write that down after on my notes. So next place we are going to is to visit Gopesvara Mahadeva, and we will be hearing again from Shriman Prakashatma Prabhu. You have 20 minutes, Prabhu, and before you start, I'm going to share an image. Here we go.
Mahadev.
You can start, and then I'll just take this picture down in around a minute or something.
But you can leave that deity. Nobody needs to see my face. Om Gyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Shakshuru Meritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gorachandraya Padikaye Tadaraye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. So my Dandavat Pranam to everybody who was listening, to all the Tridandi Sannyasi and all the respectful listener of this beautiful Parikram Harikatha. And so we've come, after Dhira-samira, we've come to the temple of Gopesvara Mahadeva. So you've seen Gurudev when he was in Vamsi-vata. There's a little deity of Gopesvara dressed as a gopi, Shiva dressed as a gopi. But the temple we are visiting, that the picture you are seeing, is this Shiva Linga and dressed as a gopi also. That Shiva actually protects the dam everywhere. in Vrindavan, Bankandi Mahadev, and Kameshwara Mahadev in Kamyavan, and Chakreshwara Mahadev in Govardhan, and here Gopeshvara Mahadev. He protects the Rasa Lila. So in order to get a little understanding of this Murti form, then a little tattva is needed to understand Shiva. Shiva tattva, actually, it's a little difficult to understand because unlike Brahma, who is a jiva, who created the material world, Shiva is not a jiva, and he's not also Vishnu tattva. So he's something in between. And sometimes it is described that he's a manifestation of Krishna. From the left side of Krishna appears Srimati Radharani, and sometimes it is said from the right side appears Shiva. It says Baladev, but sometimes it says Shiva. And as Sada Shiva, this is the highest manifestation related to the material world. He's a manifestation of Vishnu. The Brahma Samhita is saying Tallinga Bhagavan Shambhu, that when Mahavishnu wants to create the material world, he has the desire to create, then some kind of a light comes from his eyebrows, and this is called Bhagavan Shambhu. Linga. Linga is a symbol, let's say a symbol, and he's linked with like the shadow of Ramadevi, who is the yoni. So you've seen in many temples of Shiva, you have the Shiva Linga, and this Shiva Linga is like a symbol of the creation. Everything is created by Mahavishnu, but Mahavishnu doesn't touch Prakriti Maya. He just looks at her, and from this looks, then this creation, Shiva Shakti, all the living entities are injected in the womb of Prakriti. The original creation is from Mahavishnu. He has this Kama Bij. He has this seed of desire. And it is described in the Bhagavatam, the first line, Janmadi Yasya Yataha, as understood by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this Janma Adi. Janma means birth, Adi means and so on. Usually it means birth, creation, maintenance, and destruction. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he read this as Adi Ras. Janma Adi Ras. Everything is born from this Adi Ras, which is the Rasa Lila. So in Goloka Vrindavan, the original desire is there to enjoy bliss through loving pastimes. And when Mahavishnu wants to create, he has this desire of enjoyment, and this is perverted in the material world as sex desire. So Mahavishnu impregnates this Prakriti Maya with innermost living entities, but this is the working of Sada Shiva. Also, Shiva has another form. The form that is famous is Shiva Nataraj, that is seen all over India. It comes from South India. You have this dance. He's dancing, destroying the world. One of his foot is crushing the ego. He has this form of an ignorant living entity, and is crushing it down. And it is supposed to be the ego of everybody. And around another foot is in the air, and around his body is a circle of flames as he's destroying the entire material world. At the end of Brahma's life, which is very, very long, then Shiva is destroying everything. And this is another form of Shiva. And Shiva is so powerful that he can give shelter to any kinds of living entities who are in ignorance. For example, I was speaking just a few days ago to a Tibetan Buddhist who belong to this Kala Chakra Buddhism. And I was explaining to him that what you see as Kala Chakra in their Tonka, their representation of time, is actually Shiva. You have a big monster eating the whole world of creation, the samsara, and he has 3 eyes, and he looks like Shiva. And sometimes Shiva is called Mahakala. And in this Buddhism, actually, there are many Mahakala. So Shiva is a destroyer of the world. This Buddhist became a little shaky after I explained that to him, because he understood that actually what they have been representing so long in Tibet is actually none other than Shiva, Har Mahadeva, the destroyer of everything. He can be pictured as death personified. Everybody is afraid of death, and Shiva can represent death, and he destroys everything. Another of his name is Rudra. Rudra means one who makes you cry. It comes from the verb Rod, Rodayati iti Rudra. Everybody cries when people that are very dear to them die. So Shiva is a very fearsome creature somehow. Another one of his description is like a yogi. He's a yogi sitting on tiger skin, and he has snakes around his necks and around his left arms, and he has a 3rd eye, and he has ashes of dead bodies all over his person, and he's worshipped by many people in India. Actually, Shiva is the most worshipped deity in India, especially South India, and he's sometimes worshipped by the lowest kind of creature. When you see those yogis, they're half naked and with their ashes of on their bodies, and drugged out of their mind because they smoke hashish all day long. And sometimes some of those Shiva carry a skull, human skull in the head, and they practice very abominable activities like having sex with corpse, or eating the flesh of corpse, and so on and so forth. Shiva, he's giving shelter to all of them. He's giving shelter to ghosts and evil spirits and all kinds of demons like Banasura, Ravana, Pandraka, Vrikasura, and so many. And as Shankaracharya, also, he's a manifestation of Shiva. He gives this impersonal teaching to liberate all the demons, to give them Sayujya Mukti. So this is some of the aspect of Shiva. And yet when Shiva hears that Shri Krishna has taken birth at Gokul, then he goes there and he wants to see baby Krishna. But when Yashoda sees this yogi dressed as he is, with the snakes around his neck and around his arms, and fearful looking, she's very, very much afraid. And she said, no, you cannot see, he's sleeping. So Shiva doesn't persist. He understands, because he is omniscient. He understands that it is on account of his appearance that she doesn't want him to see the child. So he goes into meditation in a nearby place, and he meditates for many, many days and weeks without doing nothing else but meditating on this baby Krishna. And baby Krishna, meanwhile, he's crying and crying and crying, and nobody can stop him from crying. They try everything, but nothing works. So finally, someone tells Yashoda, there's this yogi who is meditating under the tree. He must have some power. He may be able to help so that Krishna may stop crying. So they come and they invite him in, and they let him inside the room where Krishna is. And as a matter of fact, as soon as Krishna sees Shiva, his dear devotee, then he stops crying. And Shiva is so pleased to see this beautiful form of the Lord. And just later on, when Krishna is in his Kishore age, and he hears of the Rasa Leela, then he also wants to witness this Rasa Leela. So he also again practiced some austerities, very hard, very long austerities. And Purnamasi Yogamaya, she appeared in front of him, and she gives him a body of a gopi, so he can participate in the Rasa dance. So he's very happy. And next time Shri Krishna is dancing at Vamsi-vata with the gopis, he comes in a gopi form, and they start dancing, and but just a little time, just not so long, because Krishna senses, and the gopis also are sensing something is off, something is wrong. And so they look everywhere around, and they see this new gopi. And if you see the Shiva dressed as a gopi in the corner of Vamsi-vata, it's a gopi, but she has a snake around her neck. I don't know if she's having a snake now, but they question her. They say, who are you? What is your name? Where do you come from? Where do you live? What is your husband? What does he do? And they question him like this, but he doesn't know how to answer because Purnamasi hasn't told him anything. So he's just like speechless, and they slap him. They start slapping him, telling him, tell us, who are you? We've never seen you before. What village you're from? And the gopis are slapping this Gopishwara. And finally, he started crying out to Purnamasi, who appeared on the spot and told the gopis and Krishna, oh, this is my doing. He's my dear disciple. I gave him this gopi form, and because he wanted to participate in the Rasa Leela. So in a way, Shiva is very lucky, because Lakshmi Devi, she wants to participate in the Rasa Leela, but she's been practicing austerities, and still she cannot participate. But Shiva, he had a little taste. And Krishna says, well, you cannot participate. You're not in the same mood. You're going to make everybody afraid. So, but you can watch from a distance. And so therefore, he was named Gopishwara. He's the Lord of the gopis, but you can also, according to the Sanskrit reading, saying the gopis are the Lord of this person. He's characterized by being the servant of all these gopis, who are the real masters. So Sadashiva became Gopishwara, and this is the highest form of Sadashiva. This is the real form, the one that is found in Goloka Vrindavana. This is the highest form of Shiva. Shiva means auspicious. Some of the aspects I have described as the destroyer is inauspicious for us, but Shiva means auspicious, and Gopishwara means one who actually has the duty to tell those who want to come to Rasa dance, no, you are not entitled to come. He's checking their qualification, whether they are qualified to enter or not. And so therefore, before going to Vamsi-vata, going to see all these different places, then we come to this temple and circumambulate the Shiva Linga, and sometimes dressed as a gopi, and pray to Lord Shiva so we can attain the highest goal. So this is the prayer that is given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vrindavana Vani Patiyaya Soma Soma Mole Sanandana Sanatana Naradidya Gopishwara Brajavilasi Yugandri Patme Prema Prayacha Nirupadi Namo Namaste. O protector of the land of Vrindavan, O husband of Uma, O Soma Moli, you who carry the moon on your head, O you who are worshipped by Sananda, Sanandana, Sanatan, and Narada, O Gopishwara, please bestow upon me unconditioned prema for the lotus feet of Sri Radha Krishna, who perform loving pastimes in Braja. So we can pray to Shiva also to attain this rare prema, because Shiva is the best of devotees, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. He's also called a Mahajan. And he also described the Ashtakaliya Lila to Parvati. He knows so many siddhanta, so many secrets that he's has to be worshipped as such to let us come into the highest realm of Vrindavan. This is the highest area where Krishna is having his Rasa Lila, and we do not conceive Shiva as the creator or the destroyer of the world. That is the duty of the Guna avatars, and Mahavishnu ultimately is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of everything. But we see Shiva as the very dear companion of Krishna, who is protecting the Dham and protecting the Rasa Lila. So we offer our Dandavad Pranam to this place, Gopesvara Mahadeva ki Jai. Jai Ho. Panchakalpa Darupicha Kripa Sindhu Jaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Very bold. Thank you. Thank you for everyone's very timely today. You are only 15 minutes, Prabhu, but in that time you managed to give so much tattva and so much lila. It was very, very sweet. It's such a sweet lila. So thank you very much. It's very nice to hear from you again. We're gonna move swiftly.
Oh, just 1 second, Prabhu. That was very beautiful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. One quick question of clarification: does Shiva get given the body of a gopi, or does he just dress as a gopi? You're on mute.
Yeah, see, he gets actually a body of a gopi. That is his this esoteric aspect, yes, but he doesn't get the full description of that body, because usually when you have when you realize you'll see the deha as a sadhaka, then you have the name and the color of the dress, and then the age, and then where you live, and so he gets this body. He doesn't just dress up. But this is funny, because when you see the little Gopesvara Mahadeva in Vamsi-vata, he does have a snake around his neck.
Is it that when he goes in, he's just dressed as a gopi initially, and then after they stop slapping him, etc., then he's given a body? Does it go like that, or?
No, I understood that he gets the body by the grace of Purnamasi Yogamaya, but he's not completely, he doesn't have the complete identity, let's say, like, yeah.
Got it. Great. And one other quick question is, when you were explaining how he crushes ignorance, crushing the false ego, the circle of flames around Shiva, he destroys everything. And I didn't pick up on the name of that Shiva.
They call it Nataraj, the king of dancer. It's a bronze, from Chidambaram. Became very popular. You can see this dancing Shiva, Nataraj. Just like Krishna is also dancing on Kaliya.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
There's actually a very beautiful deity of Shiva Nataraj in the British Museum. That's maybe 1,000 years old or close to that. Just worth visiting at some point. The Indian section actually of the British Museum, there's a lot of darshan there, so I do recommend it. Beautiful Jagannath deities, like tiny Jagannath deities. Anyway, Janardhan, very good. I think
we were given it, Janardhan. It was all done in great honor.
There's enough darshan in India. We needed more darshan. The 18th century Victorians or 19th century, whatever. Sorry, I'm not getting that right. we needed those. They needed the mercy of the darshans. Anyway, very well. So our next place is Vamsi-vata, as we've previously been referencing. And our next speaker is Pujapad Nami Maharaj. And I will share my screen and get up the Vamsi-vata image. Here we go. Very well. And Maharaj, you should be able to unmute now. Yes. And when you want to start, you can start. And I'll just keep this up again for 30 seconds or a minute.
Gyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshuran Militan Yeno Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Saminiti Namane Namah Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namane Namah Om Vishnupadaya Gaura Prestaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Iti Namane Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyayivacha Putitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shriman Rasarasarambe, Vamsi-vata Tatastitaha, Karshan Veno Svanai Gopi, Gopinata Shriyestunaham. So we've come to Vamsi-vata, and this is the place of the Rasa-lila, which is the supreme pastime of Radha and Krishna in this material world. Can you take this picture down, please? So this, here we got this Rasa Panchajayi, Vichitri and Braj Sundari and others they produced. Beautiful. The 5 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam that describe the Rasa dance. So Srila Gurudev has explained that Srimad Bhagavatam is like a body, and the 10th canto is like the heart of Srimad Bhagavatam. And just as in the heart, in our heart, there are 5 life airs. So the 5 life airs of Srimad Bhagavatam are the 5 chapters, Rasa Panchajayi, the 5 chapters that actually describe the Rasa dance. And amongst those, just as in our heart, there's one chief life air, pran. So similarly, there's one chief life air, chief chapter, which is Gopi Gita. So Rasa-lila is the supreme pastime, and consequently, it's very difficult to explain. Just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mama Maya Durakya, it's very difficult to cross over. What he really means is it's impossible. It's impossible to cross over without surrendering to Krishna. So similarly, when I say it's very difficult to understand Rasa-lila, for somebody like myself, it's impossible to understand. I can just say a little, following our acharyas, especially in Sri Rasa Panchajayi, 2 important commentators, Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, of course. Krishna, seeing the moon, he'd already promised the gopis that we will dance. And he'd shown, after that promise, he'd shown his capabilities by dancing on the hoods of Kaliya. He'd shown that he's a very expert dancer. And by dancing on hundreds of hoods, he's showing that actually I can dance with many, many people at the same time. So, but the question is when they're going to dance. So the full moon of the Sharad season, this is a particularly beautiful time. People, for example, they go to Agra to see Taj Mahal that time. And Krishna, seeing that full moon, he remembered the gopis, especially he remembered Srimati Radhika. And taking shelter of Yogamaya, he decided that now is the time for rasa dance. Now is the time to meet with the gopis. So he called on his flute. Where from? From Vamsi-vata. Vamsi means his flute. And when the gopis heard his call, they became stunned. It was a very special flute call. Jago kalang vamadisham manoharam. So hidden in that line, you say, ostensibly the line says that he played on his flute and he attracted the doe-eyed gopis. But actually hidden in that line, kalang, there's one letter k there. And then kalang, l is also there. And then idisham, so what can be translated as the doe-eyed gopis also means the fourth letter in the Sanskrit alphabet. So we got a, I, I. So k, lo, and then I. And then manoharam, what is it that steals the mind? It's the moon. And over the moon, is M, ma, and then over the moon, Chandra Bindu. So it spells out that KL, long I, and M with a dot over. So this is the foundation, actually, of the spiritual world. And it means that Krishna, when he played his flute, it's that fundamental spirit sound that came out of his flute in the form of the most condensed nectar. And the gopis heard this. Srila Gurudev is down, and the gopis understand that Krishna is dying for our association. He cannot live without us. So they all, in their various duties, they became totally stunned, totally bewildered, totally bewitched, not bewitched, bewildered, enchanted. And they just simply, they gave up what they were doing. And each individually, not knowing that everybody else was in the same boat, they all rushed towards where Krishna was. Each of them heard that original sound as their own name, each. So they're all rushing individually, not understanding that everybody's rushing individually. When I say all, not all, because there's different gopis or different souls who have appeared in Braj as sadhan-siddha gopis. They've attained prema. Some of them have associated with the Nitya gopis, with the eternal associates of Krishna, and especially Srimati Radhika, and their prema has gone up through man, rag, anurag, like that. So even though they're sadhan-siddha gopis, they were able to leave home like the Nitya-siddha gopis without difficulty. And the confidential reason is that Yogamaya, although their relatives may have stopped them, and they, apparently come to their senses, and, I don't know what came over me. Yes, yes, yes. And they go back and they continue with their families. Those gopis, in that case, they're not the actual gopis, they're duplicate gopis that Yogamaya has created. And the original gopis were rushing through the forest to be with Krishna. Some of them who have not associated with the eternal associates, they've been with their husbands, they've associated with their husbands, and they've actually had children. So they are not at that time qualified to associate with Krishna in the rasa dance. And Yogamaya didn't create duplicate gopis. So they went back to their rooms, and in intense, intense separation, They were meditating on Krishna, and they actually attained Krishna through meditation. Through their separation, any inauspicious qualities were dispelled. And by that meeting, all auspicious remnants were also dispelled. So the happy ending is that these gopis, they were able to go at some future time, or maybe even later that night, to meet with Krishna. Meanwhile, back in the forest. So all these gopis come and they find that they're all surrounding Krishna. So in Ras, one party has to be agreeable and the other party has to appear to be disagreeable. Otherwise, the ocean of Ras is not sufficiently stirred. So on this, usually the gopis, especially the left-wing gopis, they appear to be disagreeable. And Krishna has to plead with them and engage in all sorts of activities in order to associate with them. And this increases in the drama. But here the gopis are appearing and they're extremely eager. So then Krishna, to increase the ras, he feigns indifference. Oh, why have you come? Something's happened in Braj? Maybe there's been some fire or something like that? Oh, you've just come. So they're scratching the ground with their toes and then looking around. What's he on about? And then Krishna says, oh, so you just come to admire the scenery with the beautiful moonlight. Okay, you should see, and then you should go back home. Why? And then there's this key verse. Rajanesha Gora Rupa, Gora Sattva Nisevika, Pratiyata Brajam Neha, Stayang Shribi, Samajamaha. So the literal translation is, oh, slender-waisted ladies, this is a frightful night, and there are terrifying animals roaming about in this forest. So all of you should immediately return to Braj. It's not advisable for tender maidens to linger in the deep, dark forest, especially at night. Now, the key here, Samajimaha, your slender-waisted ladies. So Krishna is telling the gopis to go home. Why would he say that they're slender-waisted? Slender-waisted means they're very beautiful and he wants to associate with them. But on the whole, they took they took the literal meaning. Sanskrit is such a language, so there's something sandhya, and words are joined. So this Rajanesha Agora Rupa, it can be also Rajanesha Agora Rupa. This is not a terrifying time at all. And then Rupa Agora, Rupa Agora Sattva. There's no terrifying animals here. There's some deer, some rabbits, no harm. And then the meaning is, instead of that, you should immediately go back home, and by no means should you stay here. Again, by the same process, grammatical process, it means that you should stay here by all means, and by no means should you return home. Samajimaha, my dear, beautiful, slender-waisted ladies. Then the gopis began pleading with Krishna. So Krishna's mood at that time, they've surrendered to him at the time when he stole their clothes. They willingly surrendered. They willingly presented themselves with their naked beauty, willingly surrendered themselves to that extent. But they haven't surrendered their moods, their inner moods. And Krishna wants to hear the inner moods. He wants them to reveal to him how much they love him. So he's created this drama so that, and then they're pleading. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that there's 4 groups, they're all surrounding Krishna. And the 4 groups of gopis are presenting their prayers to Krishna with their respective moods at the same time. Although in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's presented sequentially in order. So they're pleading with Krishna and revealing their heart to him. And then Krishna is pleased. And then he begins amorous pastimes with them. To some extent. But then what happens is that the gopis become proud. And that pride we should understand. So there's tasan tat saubagamadam. So there's, on the one hand, vikshamanang chikeshava. On the one hand, there's pride arising from good fortune, and on the other hand, there's man. So we should understand that this is not material pride. It's not that the gopis have given way to material pride. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Trinada Pisa Nichena, Tarora Pisa Hishna Namane Namana Dena Kirtanya Siddhahari. This pride, even in bhav, there may be some traces of material impediments, but in prem, there are no material impediments at all. So the gopis, they can't have any material impediments. They can't have material pride. This is an ecstatic mood. It's a sanctuary bhav, an ecstatic mood. They're not materially proud. But in the presence of Krishna, two things coming. There's Sri Jiva Goswami's explained that they're developing on the one hand, man coming out of pranay. Pranay means lover and beloved, they've become like one. And then after that comes man. So this is a necessary stage in the development of prem. And garva also, this pride is also a necessary stage. This is one, Srila Jiva Goswami's explanation. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that, tasam. It means on the one hand, he's seeing that the gopis in general, they're developing garva, pride, and Srimati Radhika, seeing that Krishna is dancing with all the gopis, like with her, she goes in man. So in any case, Krishna sees that the only way to resolve this situation, the only way to resolve the pride, the only way to resolve the man, and the only way to pacify Srimati Radhika, and anyway, he wants to associate with her by herself, and then he can imbue the whole rasa dance with her mood, is to disappear. And so he disappears from the rasa dance. And then there's a whole sequence of, on the one hand, Srimati Radhika goes to Mansarovar, he goes there, he pacifies her, they're associating, they're in Shringarvat, he's decorating her. So many, it's not possible to describe all of that. But ultimately, at the end, after Gopi Geet, so they come together, and then the rasa dance takes place on the banks of Yamuna. And this is the supreme pastime. It's a supreme pastime, it's a supreme invitation. So Gopinath Ji, like Madan Mohan, is attracting us from our material so-called pleasure. Govinda Ji, he's accepting our service. And then Gopinath Ji is inviting us to take part in the very, very, very confidential, pastimes. So confidential, like we've already heard today, that the Adi Ras, the original mood, is this Radha and Krishna meeting. It appears to be like sexual enjoyment. It appears to be, but it's very, very, very different. And it's so different and so similar that it's very, very difficult for us to understand. And actually, as long as we have these material attachments and impressions, we can't really understand. And that's why they're confidential. I heard that Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he said, they're not doing what you think they're doing. And that to me is it's very reassuring. So we can relish, to some extent, we can relish the moods of rasa dance, following our acharyas, because it's not possible to understand by ourselves. And knowing that gradually, as we follow in the footsteps of our beloved acharyas, following the footsteps, especially our Gurudev has opened these moods in a way that nobody else has opened. My Guru Maharaj, one of the first books that he had distributed generally is Krishna book, which is a translation and commentary on the 10th canto. Before that, it was so confidential. Srila Saraswati Prabhupada would not allow his devotees to read that. And my Guru Maharaj is distributing in the street. But Srila Gurudev has gone deep. He's opened up that really, what are these moods? What are these, especially moods of service to Srimati Radhika and service to her moods in these amorous pastimes. So by following this practice of bhakti and by hearing from, qualified speakers, and especially reading the commentaries of our acharyas, and if we're fortunate, associating with those who are really qualified. So gradually these moods will come to us. Hare Krishna.
Very bold. Thank you, Prabhu and Maharaj, for speaking so nicely at such a deep place, and speaking of the rest dance, and speaking of how we can have understanding of this by following the moods of our acharyas is such an important point, because so easy to, especially as a young person, to try and go and want to understand things off our own back, but to hear again and again, we must understand things through the moods of our acharyas, just such a valuable point. So thank you for reiterating that, Maharaj. I feel like Yashoda is now about to ask a question.
You can tell by my body language,
Yeah, or maybe they just saw you unmute yourself, so.
That's our sign. Okay, Maharaj, that was delectable. Thank you so much. And yes, I agree with her in the last part about our gradual evolution towards these moods is really important. Can you just clarify something that's never actually been clear to me, and it wasn't clear again, and I'm sure you'll be able to define it nicely. You were saying that the gopis' mood was proud, but not material pride, and not man. So what was it exactly? Because you talked about pride from good fortune, which is presumably material pride from man, which is a transcendental pride, but you said it was some other kind of pride because it wasn't man and it wasn't material.
No, you say, I'm sure you clear this up. Well, I'm not, but I can just explain. For example, Srila Jiva Goswami, he says, this garva, that means pride, is not the transformation of the material heart. There's no question, there's no possibility that the gopis in the rasa dance could have any material qualities at all. So it's actually pride. It's because they're associating with Krishna, so it's a natural ecstatic emotion. It's a sanctuary bhav, a temporary, necessary emotion which arises in the ocean of rasa and then disappears. I can't say any more than that because I don't understand. I don't know rasa, but I'm just explaining what I've read here. And then man, also it's coming out of pranay. Pranay. So we got sneha, pranay, man. After praying, it develops into sneha, then into pranay, where the illusion of duality is disappeared. So the heroine knows that the hero must respond to her, must. And then that develops into man. So it's here, it says prananya man. It's just natural development from pranay. So one might object that the man of the Brajramanis was causeless. So why didn't Krishna neglect them and disappear? So he says, anger and pride help praying to ripen. In other words, for praying to reach its highest limits, neglect, both of these are necessary, but also neglect was required to pacify both the pride and the man. Thinking this way, Sri Bhagavan decided to vanish and thus achieve both tasks. That's Srila Jiva Goswami. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna, ultimately he disappeared because he wanted to be with Srimati Radhika. She was in man because she was in man because she saw that Krishna is associating with all the gopis as he's associating with her. So Jiva Goswami is saying that the man is in the gopis, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that the man is in Srimati Radhika. And it takes, I suppose, it takes like studying and then chanting and just going into these things.
I just recollect actually, and I can't remember who said it. It was one of these Kartik programs, something along the lines of that the pride in the gopis was because they were not fully serving the supremacy, or they weren't fully acknowledging the supremacy of Radharani in the Ras Leela, and they were dancing with Krishna like they were dancing with Krishna, not as part of the honoring of Srimati Radharani. Does that ring a bell, or have I misunderstood that?
Not to me, because the gopis, other than in Srimati Radhika's group, would not. Anyway, I can just repeat what I've read here. Okay. I can't say any more than that. I'm helpless.
Okay, no, some things just can't be understood at this time. That's okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. Also, you went into a really beautiful definition, which I lost track of, and I'd love you to go back into it if you could, about the double entendre about the slender-waisted gopis. Could you just try and repeat that so I can imbibe it? That would be lovely.
This key verse where Krishna's called Govinda. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives this meaning of Govinda, that he likes to play with words also. So Rajanyesa Gora Rupa. So Krishna is speaking in such a way that the literal meaning appears to be that it's a terrifying time, there's terrifying animals, there's no way that they should stay here, they should immediately go back to Braj. But by Sandhi means the joining of words. For example, Gora, which means terrifying, could be Agora if it's joined in a particular way to the other word. And Pratyata Brajang Neha. Neha means don't stay here, but it could be Pratyata Brajang, no, don't return to Braj. Iha stayam, stay here. So it's Pratyata Brajang Neha, don't stay here, stayang, Neha stayang, don't stay here. But it can also mean Pratyata Brajang, no. Don't go back.
That's brilliant.
Stay here. Samajimaha. And obviously, when he's talking to them, he's saying to them, Samajimaha, why would you tell slender-waisted means utterly desirable, beautiful ladies? Why would you say, hey, this is no place for you, you go back home? So in that sense, he's displaying his intention that I want to associate with you, but I'm messing around with you right now. I'm teasing you.
That's brilliant. This would be Madhav Maharaj Nectar. He would love this.
Okay.
Because he loves playing with words. That's great. What you said about joining words, that's brilliant. That's a great principle. I love it.
That's the key. That's the key to that verse.
Yeah, yeah. Got it. I got it. That's fantastic. Beautiful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol Maharaj, thank you once again. If you're able to, after this glorification, and not this glorification, the next places that we visit, if you're not tight for time, if you're able to stay for 5 minutes to speak on Srila Narottam Das Thakur, we're going to just mention him briefly today.
Yeah, I would love to
speak longer on him tomorrow. Okay, so we are going to our final places, which are Brahma Kunda and Sri Govinda Dev Temple with Pujapad Chudandi Maharaj. I will share my screen and show you the pictures.
This is Brahma Kunda. So Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadare Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namaha. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So now where we have come is Brahma Kunda. That's the picture on the screen. And this is where Punamasi dips Shivji. to give him that female form, as our dear Sriman Prakashatma Prabhu was describing in his Katha on Gopesvara Mahadeva. So this is the place where, and it's right next door to Gopesvara Mahadeva. It's not very far. It's like a few hundred yards. The whole place now, you can see behind that fountain, is very beautifully decorated. This has all been done in the last 8 or 9 years, 10 years perhaps. Previously, it was just rubble when we would go there with Gurudev, but now it's all been beautifully erected, and this beautiful fountain has been put in to commemorate that pastime of Purnamasi dunking Shivji into this kund. And as Prakashatma Prabhu was relating, how he got the form, but he didn't get the inner understanding of his identity as a gopi. He still maintained his Shivji consciousness, so to speak, which is why he got into trouble by the other gopis that we heard that pastime. So, also at this same Brahma Kund, Naradji was dunked in this kund by Vrindadevi. So in Kusum Sarovar, there's another kund which tells the same pastime. So my Gurudev has reconciled that in different ages, in different kalpas, then sometimes this pastime is performed here, and sometimes in Kusum Sarovar, where we also go on the parikrama, and we'll discuss this on the parikrama, where Vrindadevi, she dunks Naradji into Brahma Kund here, and Naradji comes out as Naradiya Gopi. So as we know, Narad has a number of swarups. He's Srivasacharya, he's Madhu Mangal, he's Narad, and he's also Naradiya Gopi. So these are 4 swarups that Narad has in his different pastimes that he performs. So this is very wonderful to consider the potency of this place to transform these powerful personalities into the eligibility, having a female form, to enter these confidential pastimes. So we can also pray internally for the same benediction, that our consciousnesses can be purified of any male or female identity and just take that feminine mood and form to serve the divine couple in Vrindavan. So we can pray like this at this kund for our spiritual personality to actually manifest, to render service to Sri Radha and Krishna Yugal. So we can pray like this at this Brahma Kund. All these pastimes we're hearing are extremely beautiful and esoteric, and the whole consciousness needs like to be transformed into a mood of just pure seva. And it's described in the feminine form that pure seva is much more easily facilitated. So therefore we can pray just like Shivji did, and Purnamasi gave him that mercy, and Narad prayed also, and Vrindadevi, who's the orchestrator of so much here in Vrindavan itself. We haven't mentioned her name practically at all, but Vrindadevi and Purnamasi are in fact one tattva, Yog Maya, but they have 2 forms for the Leela. So Purnamasi, of course, is in the older form, the Mahant, we can say, of Vrindavan, the older ascetic lady who lives near Radha and Krishna in Gokul, as well as in Nandagaon. So, and then Vrindadevi is the younger personality representing the same Yogamaya Tattva, but in her youthful body, she can easily enter the Ras Leela to become the audience of the Ras Leela. Vrindadevi has millions of duties, messengers, followers, and they all take part in the Rasa Leela as the audience. When the Rasa Leela is being performed so splendidly, when the gopis are singing so loudly, and they're waving beautiful cloths around and they're dancing completely astonishingly, then Vrindadevi and her messengers, they all are the audience that's applauding and appreciating the astonishing spectacle that's taking place. So Vrindadevi, she has that eligibility. But Purnamasi, she has the eligibility within the village of Vrindavan. So these two personalities perform this pastime at Brahma Kunda of transforming Shivji into a gopi and Narad into Naradiya gopi. So this is the pastime that we remember here at Brahma Kunda, which is very significant in connection with where we're going now. We've just come from Gopesvara Mahadeva, we've just come from Vamsi-vata, and now we're seeing the root of that pastime of Gopesvara Mahadeva and of Naradiya having the eligibility to also witness the Maharas. This was his desire. So this is Brahma Kunda Ki Jai. So now we're going to walk perhaps about a mile, and we're going to come to the magnificent temple of Govindadev. This temple originally was 6 stories high, and today, if Tarunji would like to put a picture up on the screen here, we can witness the strong foundational story or building floor of this temple. We can imagine 6 stories on top of this temple. How magnificent is this temple? It's absolutely beautiful, completely majestic. It was one of the first temples. This temple, Madan Mohan, and Gopinath. Gopinath, the same temple, doesn't exist as existed previously. But this temple, of course, we know was inspired fully by our most beloved Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami discovered the original deity of Govindadev. Rupa Goswami was performing his parikrama, and one day he was sitting and his heart was burdened with a feeling of disappointment that he wasn't able to fully serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to establish the deity of Govindadev, that he hadn't discovered the deity of Govindadev in Vrindavan. Because we know that Brajanabha, he established all these deities just after Krishna left this world. All the original deities were established by Brajanabha, who's the grandson of Krishna. And then they were all still there in Vrindavan to be rediscovered by the Goswamis in their great affection for service to Sri Radha and Krishna. So Rupa Goswami, he's lamenting, and a very beautiful cowherd boy sees his despondency and asks, "Why are you looking miserable here in Vrindavan?" And Rupa, he doesn't answer initially, and then the boy persists. And then finally Rupa reveals, "I'm searching for the deity of Govindadev to fulfill the order of my master Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." And that boy, he relates that a cow every day goes to Gomatila, which is quite close by. It's a hill. And the boy is pointing out the direction and saying, every day this cow goes there, and just on its own volition, it squirts milk from its udder into a hole in this hill. So perhaps if you go there and excavate down, you may come to find the fulfillment of your desire. So Rupa, and then after saying this to Rupa Goswami, that boy, he disappears just right in front of Rupa Goswami. So of course Rupa Goswami is feeling, oh, this is direct indication from the Lord. So he becomes very joyful in his heart. And he gathers all the villagers together, and they go to that place, and they dig down just a little way, and they come to the most gorgeous deity of Govindadev. And they take him out of that place and bathe him, abhishek and so on, and worship him beautifully. And Rupa Goswami, he's in ecstasy, worshipping this beautiful form of Govindadev. But they just build a somewhat temporary structure for his worship to be performed. And then at quite a much later date, it's described that, in fact, Raghunath Bhatta, the dear associate of Rupa Goswami, he has a disciple from the area of Jaipur called Man Singh Maharaj, who donated so much wealth for the construction and oversaw the construction of this remarkable temple where we are now. So in this temple, in principle, just like I've described coming through from all the other temples, we are describing the personality who manifested this temple for the glorification of Radha and Krishna. So today at Radha Govindaji, we are absorbed in thoughts of Rupa Goswami. All the beautiful descriptions that our Pujapad Nemi Maharaj was just sharing with us about the esoteric rasic understandings and terminologies, etc., have every single one of them manifested from Rupa Goswami. Without Rupa Goswami, none of this raskata would be possible at all. Rupa Goswami is completely responsible for gifting to the world the entirety of the roadmap, so to speak, for the sadhaks of this world to practice fully and come to an understanding of the deepest, most confidential pastimes between Radha and Krishna. And it's a whole language that needs to be actually appreciated. What are the anubhavs? What are the sattvika bhavs? What are the 33 sanchari bhavs? And how to mix everything together? What is the vibhav? And to make this samagri mix, and how to appreciate the specialities of the ras between Radha and Krishna. Not only these rasic, tattvik or rasa tattva descriptions, but also Rupa Goswami, even more than this, he's taken our hands into the very most confidential, sweetest parts of the Leela with his gift of Vidagdha Madhav and Lalita Madhav. When we take these two gifts from Rupa Goswami, then we really begin to appreciate the speciality of the divine relationship between Radha and Krishna. So this particular temple where we've come is extremely beautiful. And inside the temple, originally, when it was 6 stories high, the beautiful form of Govindadev was there. And Purushottam Jana in Puri, he was given a vision or a dream where the Lakshmi Dev in Puri that was being worshipped as Lakshmi Dev was in fact none other than Sri Radhika herself. And Purushottam Jana, who is the father of Prataparudra, he was instructed to please send this murti to Govindadev in Vrindavan. And that Radhika had been waiting for Govinda to manifest, to come by his side. And then it's described that very carefully she was carried to Vrindavan to stand by the side of Govindadev. So then we have Radha Govindadev, the complete divine moiety, the complete divine couple. So now they are being beautifully worshipped. Ultimately, today, as we speak, they're being worshipped, of course, in Jaipur, because when the tyrannical Aurangzeb was in the process of dismantling these temples and harassing the Vaishnavas, they were shifted along with all the other principal deities. So today, Radha and Govinda Dev, they take up the most central position amongst all the temples and deities of Jaipur for everyone's beautiful darshan daily. I'm sure many of you have been to the wonderful Artik ceremonies, especially the Mangal Arti in Jaipur. It's completely intoxicating, and the atmosphere that flows from Govinda Dev and Sri Radhika is absolutely divine. So this was the beauty and speciality of this Govinda Dev personality. Nevertheless, the Pratibhu deity remains or was manifested in Vrindavan for our benefit today. And we have darshan of the beautiful Govinda Dev deity here. But in fact, so many of the Brijvasis, they pay homage by visiting Jaipur, which is about 5 hours drive from Vrindavan, just to take darshan of Radha Govinda ji. So this is the speciality of this temple. And it was Raghunath Bhatta described in 1590. So 1590, Mahaprabhu leaves this world in 1536. Is that correct, or 1534? Yashoda? I think it's 1536.
1534, Maharaj.
1634, okay, 1534. So then 60 odd years later, or 54 years later, 56 years later, this temple was completed by Raghunath Bhatta, his disciple, the disciple of Raghunath Bhatta. So I was considering this morning that even though Raghunath Bhatta, it appears he doesn't contribute greatly in literature, etc., to our lineage, and yet he's responsible for the manifestation of such an enormous, important temple as Govinda Dev. When we come to this Govinda Dev and we remember the speciality of Rupa Goswami, who represents the Abhideya Tattva. The Abhideya Tattva means the means to how we can practice and reach this stage of the Prayojan Tattva. So this is the methodology, so to speak, which takes up the volume, in fact, of the teachings of Mahaprabhu. We have the Sambandha, the Abhideya, and the Prayojan. So this is, we appreciate these, this tattva today at this mandir. And there's been a very beautiful bhajan that we sing each time while we're here. And this is written by an unknown Vaishnava author, but he describes this Bandhu Sange Jaditava Ranga Parihas. We always sing this beautiful bhajan, and the meaning is, if you have the desire to have fun and laugh with friends, then heed my words. Don't go near Keshigat in Mathura. There Sri Hari has taken the form of Govinda, whose eyes are graced with a crooked glance and whose mouth is graced with a gentle smile. How captivating is his threefold bending pose, replete with a radiant blackish complexion and limbs as lovely as tender new leaves. The flute on his lips is the cause of great peril. O brother, have no faith in that crest of peacock feathers. Upon beholding that form with the eyes, no one ever returns to home. The family life of a householder who does so becomes completely destroyed. This is the great fear in my mind. A grave calamity will occur, O householder. So do not go near Keshigat in Mathura. So Mathura is referenced as Vrindavan in this particular bhajan, but this is the potency of Govinda Dev, that he has that potency to take away all of our material desires entirely and just leave us like a wandering mendicant within the groves of the Vrindavan forest. So this is the speciality and beauty of this personality, this deity that we've come to see today at Govinda Kund. So, at Govinda Mandir. So we hear, of course, the extensive glories of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami's glories we discuss on his disappearance day in particular, but while we are here, of course, we must enumerate something of the greatness of Rupa Goswami. All of these pastime places, as we've been saying, as we've been going around, are all referencing these personalities. So Rupa Goswami, the greatest sevak of Sachinandan Gaurahari, inaugurating his mission in this world to give us these immense gifts of what is the understanding of Parakiya Ras, in contrast to Swakiya, the marital relationship, how to understand these. So Rupa Goswami, he's given all of these teachings extensively, particularly through the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and the Ujjvala Nilamani, these two books. And then these two books were carried on by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who is understood also to be carrying exactly the same current as Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. I once directly asked Srila Gurudev, it seems that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Rupa Goswami are exactly identical. And he opened his eyes very wide and said, yes, in a very emphatic way. So we are linking these two personalities together, Rupa Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We've just come from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Gokulananda Mandir. So as we're traveling through Vrindavan to all these different places and remembering not only the beautiful deities and the beautiful pastimes that took place there in Braj while Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, but also these great personalities in our Guru Vargya who have revealed the glories of these personalities, Govinda Dev. And we just heard from Pujapad Nemi Maharaj, one of the meanings of Govinda is one who can speak tricky words. He was saying this parokshvad, when Krishna speaks one thing, but he's actually meaning another. Govinda, of course, means the worshipper of the cows. It means that personality who worships the gopas and the gopis also. So Govinda is so significant. We chant this very beautiful mantra, Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadurumada Srimad Ratnagara Shima Sansto Shri Shri Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prista Labdi Savyamana Smarami. I meditate upon Sri Radha Govinda Dev, who are seated beneath a desire tree on an effulgent bejeweled throne on the supremely beautiful land of Vrindavan. There they are always being served by their beloved Sakhis, especially by Lalita and Vishaka. So this is our principal meditation here today on the glories and specialities of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. So I'm going to end here and just for our meditation to carry away the sweetness and speciality that Srila Rupa Goswami has revealed in the teachings of our most beloved Sachinandan Gaurahari. So Radha Govinda Ji ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Very, very well. Wait, why are you laughing, Maharaj?
Because I'm looking at your shoulder, getting ready to unmute and perhaps ask me a question. Or
I was looking at him as well, and I was thinking, oh, no question from your shoulder, and then suddenly I see the red mute icon in the bottom left of his little video disappear. I'm like, shouldn't have second guessed him. Here we go.
Well, it's a very small question, Maharaj, and a very easy one. That pastime of the manifestation of God.
I've lost you.
No, I think Tarun muted me by mistake. So,
Okay.
Wasn't
subconsciously.
wasn't me.
There's a beautiful, that's a very beautiful pastime, the way the deity manifested and the little boy appearing to Rupa Goswami. What was the name of the place the boy said the cow goes to? I didn't catch it.
Gomatila. It's a similar pastime, of course, to the pastime with Madhavendra Puri, when he was also indicated, where is that beautiful Gopal deity? Similarly, Krishna indicated there. How could we possibly resurrect these beautiful deities without the indication of Krishna directly? He's lying there under the ground. So he's waiting for his sevaks to take him out of that place and glorify him. So,
Thank you.
okay, Tarun.
Thank you, Maharaj. Sorry.
No,
I
that's
was editing something. Yeah, thank you so much for this beautiful Qatar and for organizing this program, and for immaculately planning out every day. So we're kind of coming to the end of our regular plan, but after much discussion over whether we would speak about Narottam Das Thakur just tomorrow or mention him today, we've concluded that we're going to mention him briefly today and speak about him more thoroughly tomorrow. So if Pujapad Nemi Maharaj wants to come on, you can speak for around 5 minutes or so.
Hare Krishna. Jnana-timirandhasya jananjanashlakya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Gurudeva ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Rupanuga Gurvarga ki jai, Shri Narottam Thakur ki jai. Jai Go Premanandi. Shri Narottam Thakur is one of our very brilliant acharyas. Srila Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj, such a renounced, profound Vaishnava, he said, if you want to get Krishna Prem, it's very easy. You just go to the marketplace and you pay however many paisa, and you buy Shri Prarthana and Prem Bhakti Chandrika by Shri Narottam Thakur. Of course, we have to read these literatures, perform these literatures, sing under the guidance of pure devotees. But Narottam Thakur is such a beautiful songwriter, and he established the tradition of singing beautiful Bengali songs in simple language, expressing the highest philosophy and the highest ras also. Prarthana, it's amazing transcendental roller coaster. Actually, when we read that in sequence, he's going through all sorts, sometimes intricately describing his service to Radha and Krishna, Govardhan, sometimes describing his complete disqualification to practice any kind of bhakti. Like I say, it's a roller coaster. And there's a beautiful sequence there. And the last song, which doesn't always get included, is so beautiful. Narottam Thakur, Narottam is in his spiritual form, looking out of the door and seeing Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radhika, seeing Krishna going out with the cows and crying, thinking, I want to go with you. If only you were a jewel, I could tie you I could keep you in my hair. If only you were sandalwood paste, I could keep you on my body. And then she's crying and going into the kitchen and putting wet wood on the fire so that the smoke will come and it will conceal from her Gurujan, from her elders, why she's crying in separation from Krishna. Very, very, very sweet mood of separation. Narottam Thakur is the son of a king. He left home. He went to Vrindavan. He performed the most menial service to his Guru Maharaj, Srila Lochan Das Thakur, who is one of the 8 Manjaris, Ashtamanjari of Srimati Radhika, Manjalali Manjari, and attained Diksha from him, although Loknath Das Goswami didn't want. And Narottam Thakur was so humble and so desirous that Lochan Das Thakur's heart melted. He's one of the Prabhu Troy, the next generation of preachers after the 6 Goswamis and Sri Krishna's Kavaras Goswami. He, from his songs, we can understand that he's totally self-realized as a beautiful attendant maidservant of Srimati Radhika in her pastimes with Krishna. Very, very rasik poetry, amazing singer, and how he played on the instrument. So at the first Gaur Purnima festival, or large Gaur Purnima festival at Keturi, with all the Mahants came. So he was playing, it described in Bhakti Ratnakara, he's playing kirtan, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all his associates, they'd left this world ages ago, but they all appeared again. All. Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, Panchatattva, all their associates, they all appeared and they're dancing and singing with the devotees. Such a kirtan. And in the end, such a transcendental personality that in the end, he went with his devotees to the river, sacred river, and he said, now you should bathe me. And they began bathing him, pouring water on him, and he just melted away as milk. So such an extraordinary transcendental personality we can't begin to imagine. Today is his appearance Tithi in some countries, including UK. So therefore we're glorifying him today, because we should glorify the Acharyas at the time of their Tithis, because that's when their grace and mercy is especially available. So I offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of Sri Narottam Thakur, and I pray that if I can take birth in his association in my next birth, I will be so fortunate. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhyacha puritanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you very much for that very condensed glorification of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. It was very it was express, yes, it was express, but I also expert. It was very expert in how he managed to like get so much in there, and then you kind of sped up. You started fast and you sped up as you went. I'm excited for the extended version tomorrow, Maharaj, to hear the full extended glorification. So yeah, thank you. There were some leelas there that I had never heard before, so thank you for sharing them. I'm looking forward to hearing them in more extensive detail tomorrow. Thank you for speaking on Srila Narottam Das Thakur. So we are coming to the end of our time, and this is the time where I announce who is speaking tomorrow or tonight. First, I announce who is speaking tonight. So tonight, we have Shripad Ashram Maharaj, Srimati Shamarani Didi, and Shriman Prem Prayojan Prabhu. Then tomorrow, we're back here again, and we have, at the same time, we have Bailvan Darshan, I definitely pronounced that wrong, and we'll have a much longer glorification of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And that's it. Yeah, that's it on announcements. Sorry. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending, but please do not go just yet, because we have a beautiful kirtan singer and an even more beautiful kirtan. I probably shouldn't say that, but I'm sure you wouldn't mind me saying that. So Shriman Manas Prabhu is going to sing Ali Mohalage Vrindavana Niko, which is such a wonderful kirtan. I'm sure so many of you are familiar with it, but if you're not, I'm very excited on your behalf for you to hear it for the first time.